Jurassic Park 3 is easy to make fun of, but in this video I'm going to talk about the things Jurassic Park 3 does right. And it's more than it gets credit for. Welcome back to Best Bits, a 6-part series where I talk about my favorite parts of each of the 6 movies leading up to Jurassic World Rebirth. The franchise started with a masterpiece, but later installments definitely have their flaws, some more than others. However, all Jurassic films have good stuff in them too, and no matter how Jurassic World Rebirth turns out, I bet it too will have awesome dinosaur scenes like any other Jurassic film. So I want to get excited for the future by looking back at the best bits of the past. In today's video, Jurassic Park 3. After Jurassic Park 3, the franchise went extinct for 14 years, and in that time, it's certainly been the butt of many jokes.
Alan.
But I actually think it's a fun, quick watch with some really great scenes, as I'll go through in this video. It's a compact Jurassic story, and after enduring sequels that have become overcomplicated by laser-guided military dinosaurs and locusts threatening the world food chain, I love how unapologetically simple and self-contained Jurassic Park 3 is. Obviously, I love the return of Alan Grant. He's very cynical, and there's character depth there, like the trauma from the experience on Nublar that isn't properly explored, but he's still Alan Grant, and I love him, and I like his dry humor.
You like computers, right?
I like the abacus, Billy.
Jurassic Park 3 is easy to make fun of with a single clip.
Alan.
But I might try the unthinkable, the impossible, and defend this scene. Just a little bit.
It's a bad idea!
What's a bad idea?
I understand what they were trying to do here. The raptors' sophisticated communication is a big part of the film. It's that intelligence that makes them so frightening and part of why Alan still has nightmares of them. But it doesn't just feed his fear, it's also why he's so fascinated with them and why he's still studying them.
So what are you working on now?
Raptors, mostly.
My favorite.
Do you remember the sounds they made?
I try not to.
They were smarter than dolphins or whales. They were smarter than primates.
And there's a bit with the parrot earlier where he's trying to get it to say his name. The seeds are all there. I will give them props for trying. But onto the actual best bits. I love that Jurassic Park 3 doesn't have a villain the way the other films do. The only villains are the dinosaurs, and that works perfectly well for this short take on a Jurassic adventure. The dinosaurs are threat enough. Now, if the movie had leaned into the dark aspect of the Kirbys tricking everyone into coming to this island, then I would have loved that too. But the movie doesn't go there, so I'm not gonna sit here and say, well, the Kirbys were the actual villains, when the movie doesn't portray them as such. The Kirbys were just desperate parents at their wits' end to save their son, and they made a bad, selfish decision. But they are not villains, according to the logic of the film at least. The mercenaries, who are first introduced to be kinda shady and you're wondering what's up with them, not villains either. Just regular dudes trying to do the job they were hired to do.
Never can tell about people, can you?
Ain't that the truth?
And I like that with all 3 of them, the film subverts our expectations. The tough guys with their big guns lose their facade of coolness real quick once things go awry on Sorna. Udesky is an underrated character. He's not just dinosaur fodder, the film does a good job at humanizing him. He turns out to be a really likable, normal dude with funny lines.
We search for your son in the direction that they're going.
Excellent, excellent.
If we split up, I'm going with you guys.
And talking about the movie out of chronological order, his death scene was actually terrifying. The raptors purposefully keeping him alive to set a trap doesn't just scratch that itch I have for a darker, more horror-type tone in a Jurassic film by adding a layer of psychological torture to his death. It's doing double duty, also showing off the extremely high level of the raptors' intelligence. We'll talk more about the raptors later. One of the very best bits of the movie is the Spinosaurus, in every regard. The film primes us really well by having a single encounter with the Spinosaurus turn Cooper from this to this. And it follows through with this nice little horror introduction. Nash's death is already brutal, but was even more brutal as a recently surfaced image shows. The death was more gruesome than we got to see. Then it shows off the raw power of the Spinosaurus and how it wrecks the airplane and how it wrecks the T-Rex. This is a very controversial fight in the franchise, but I like it. Even though I am a huge fan of the T-Rex, I agree that it was time for a new big bad dinosaur, and the Spino killing the Rex to show how threatening it is a bit of a trope, but it works. The king is dead, long live the king. And while the Spinosaurus no longer lives up to modern scientific understanding of what this animal looked like, at the time it was a decent representation. And more than that, for lack of better words, it's cool. I think the Spinosaurus is absolutely badass. I love everything about its design, including the detail of how the eyes look. And the roars to this day are some of my favorite in the franchise. Not as iconic as the T-Rex and the Raptors, but it's only had one movie. It hasn't had the chance to compete on that level of iconicness. The last scene of the Spinosaurus attack on the boat is jaw-dropping incredible. Let's be generous and just pretend it's not intercut with Charlie dancing to an episode of Barney. The JP3 Spino will always be peak to me, and I do wish we could have gotten this design back for Jurassic World Rebirth. However, that being said, I don't dislike the new Spinosaurus design. And while I don't think the design is perfect, I think it's pretty cool, and I'm very excited to see it in action. And I'm really hoping we're gonna see that second trailer soon. The reveal of Ben's skeleton is way more grotesque than it gets credit for. I think Amanda's reaction to it kind of turns the scene into a joke, because while her panic is understandable, I think they played her screaming for laughs. I'm autistic, so I might be mistaken, but I think with her facial expressions and the pitch she achieves, I think we're supposed to think it's funny, and they probably went there to sort of soften the blow of just how gruesome it actually is. But when you think about it, revealing a human skeleton of a named character is probably one of the darkest things the franchise has done. Speaking of Amanda, I don't like her. And her and Paul made a really shitty decision tricking everyone the way they did. Even in a Best Bits video, there's no way around mentioning that. But I will say there's actually a really thoughtful parallel in the movie between two parents searching across the entire island for their son and the raptor pack searching across the entire island for their stolen eggs. That's pretty clever in a movie that's mostly very simple and surface level, and I don't think it gets enough credit for little things like that. I also think Amanda and Paul get lumped together as awful, annoying characters because they are both responsible for the decision that led to all of them being on Sorna and has led to people dying. But I will give Paul a little bit of recognition for having a not too bad of a character arc. He starts as this punchable fool and the butt of many jokes.
Who's got some change?
But over time, he does become more competent and more brave, eventually being willing to risk his life to save others. You'll never catch me saying I like the Kirbys, but this is Best Bits, and for some of these, I gotta find the good in the bad. An underrated scene in Jurassic Park 3 is how Alan and Billy set a trap for Paul Kirby, tricking him into giving an answer that will betray he's been lying to them. It shows Alan and Billy are observant and sly, and it's a fun scene to reveal the truth to the viewer.
They set a trap. They actually set a trap.
Okay, now it's time to talk about the raptors. The compound sequence that introduces them is awesome. We just see a blurry image of one of them in the background at the start of the sequence, and it puts you on the edge of your seat. From that moment on, you're waiting with goosebumps on your arms for the raptors to reveal themselves. And while there is a certain silliness and campiness to how it pretends to be dead in a vat, I'm not opposed to a bit of movie magic and suspension of disbelief, and I really like how this plays out. It feels like a classic horror gimmick, but I like it. The raptors also look superb in this film. The animatronics for them are top notch. Unsurprisingly, Stan Winston's magic is all over these films. The designs are also so cool. It's my favorite design for raptors in the franchise so far. For me, this was the last film where raptors were truly intimidating. It all works together so well. Their design, their intelligence, their sound design, their scenes, these are scary raptors. And I'm still waiting for the day the Jurassic franchise brings back raptors as the ultimate threat.
Some of the worst things imaginable have been done with the best intentions.
A new threat Jurassic Park 3 introduces, much to my glee, are the Pteranodons. I love how we build up to the discovery of the foggy chasm being a birdcage, and then the reveal of the Pteranodon emerging from that fog, straight out of a horror flick. This was a huge wow factor for me as a kid, and I'll never forgive myself for throwing away my Jurassic Park 3 toy Pteranodon, because that thing was awesome. And I can't help but think a little cynically, this was back when the franchise understood that you don't need to make up a new hybrid or mutant to inject something new and awe-inspiring and terrifying into your film. You don't need movie monsters, just pick a new type of prehistoric creature. That being said, I will be doing best bits for the Jurassic World films as well, ignoring my qualms with them and focusing on the parts I do really like. So subscribe to the channel for the second half of this series. So one thing I see the movie get criticized for is how it kind of fizzles out at the end. You had the spectacular Spinosaurus scene, and then there's the confrontation with the raptors, which gets interrupted, and then...
She said the Navy and Marines.
I rescued your hand.
Other films in the franchise end more explosively. In fact, if you cut Jurassic Park 3 a little differently, it would fix this issue. The characters are on the boat, they hear the satellite phone on the shore, they dig it out of the shit, they wash up in the river, and while still on the riverbank, Alan calls Ellie. He starts to explain where they are, and the raptors show up in that moment. And we get to see Ellie's shocked, horrified reaction to hearing the raptor calls on the other end of the line.
Do you remember the sounds they made?
I try not to.
The scene then plays out more or less as it does in the film, but instead of the helicopter arrival startling and chasing off the raptors, it's the approach of the Spinosaurus. Maybe the characters don't even realize why the raptors just take the eggs and get the heck out of there, but it's definitely unsettling. So they get back on the boat, and then boom, Spinosaurus attacks, plays out just like it did in the film, and then they get rescued. That way the film ends on the spectacle of the Spinosaurus scene. However, I actually like how Jurassic Park 3 doesn't end with the big dino battle, even though that was the plan. I like how it sets itself apart and ends on a more intimate, terrifying moment. So for these videos, what I also want to highlight are some things I hope Jurassic World Rebirth incorporates from these past films, and what I hope Jurassic World Rebirth takes away from Jurassic Park 3 is to subvert expectations we as viewers have of the characters, spicing up scenes with some tricks from horror films, and of course, the scary raptors. Let me know in a comment down below what you think the best bits of Jurassic Park 3 were. If you like this video, subscribe for the best bits of the 3 Jurassic World films, and if you haven't already, check out the best bits episodes for the original Jurassic Park and The Lost World. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time.
Alan.